Eric wears glasses and a black shirt with dark jeans and sneakers. His girlfriend Kayla sits next to him. She has black hair and wears a yellow shirt and blue jeans. The TV on front of them is playing a movie. In this movie, a 30-year-old man stands on front of a grave. Kayla looks at Eric and says, "If I die while you're alive, would you date another girl?" Eric doesn't answer and Kayla says, "Don't." Eric smiles, "I wouldn't." Kayla says, "Promise me." Eric says, "I promise." Kayla smiles and they kiss. 3 months later, Kayla is driving her small white car while music plays in the background. She sings along to the jamming song. Suddenly a large truck hits her and smashes her car into a street lamp. 5 years later, it's morning. Eric sits on front of a round table in a coffee shop. He's waiting for someone. He taps his hand on the table with nervousness. Sophie enters the coffee shop. She is wearing a blue shirt and black jeans. She wears glasses. She walks to the table Eric is sitting at. "Hi," Eric says as he stands. Sophie smiles and says, "Hello." They hug. "I'm glad you're not a catfish," Sophie says, and they sit. "Same here. Thanks for coming," Eric says. "You too," she says. It's night now. Eric stands in front of the mirror in the restroom. He's shirtless and brushing his teeth. This is the restroom from his bedroom. His phone sits on the bed in his room. It vibrates. Eric keeps brushing his teeth. The restroom door slowly closes behind Eric. He places the toothbrush on the sink. He turns around and opens the door and steps into his bedroom. He walks to the bed. He picks up the phone. He's on the phone when behind him the restroom door shuts close fast and loud. Eric turns around and walks to the door and opens it. He sees writing on the mirror. It's on the very left corner of the mirror. He gets closer and sees it reads, "Liar." He grabs a shirt hanging from the towel rag and exits the restroom and closes the door. Next morning Eric exits his house and locks the door. He walks to his gray car and enters. He sees a girl wearing a white and pink top walking by. He turns his car on. His phone rings and he gets the phone out of his pocket. Sophie is calling. He clicks the screen and puts phone onto his ear. He listens to her talk and looks out the car. He looks at his house as he listens to Sophie. "Yes, sounds good to me," he says into the phone. He sees the front door of his house slowly open. "Gotta go," he says into the phone and places it on the dashboard. He opens the door and steps out of the car. He walks to the front door of his house and slowly walks in. "Who's in here?" he screams out. He turns the light on. He sees a paper on the sofa. He walks to the sofa and grabs the page of paper. It is folded in half. He unfolds it. It reads, "You broke your promise." Eric crumbles the paper and tosses it out the door. He walks out of the house and locks the door again and returns to his car. It's night. Sophie and Eric are on the sofa. Eric has his arm around her. The TV on front of them is playing a horror film. Sophie gets up. "May I use your restroom?" she asks. Eric answers, "Yes, of course." Sophie walks into the hallway and into the restroom. She closes the door. Eric is on the sofa. He stands and walks to the kitchen. He clicks the light on and opens the refrigerator and pulls out a can of soda. He closes it and turns the light off. He opens the can of soda as he walks back to the sofa. He sits and Sophie returns. She sits next to Eric. They look at each other and kiss. They kiss for 30 seconds. "Ouch!" Sophie yells and puts her hand to her neck. What's wrong? Eric asks. I felt a pain, she says. Let me see, Eric says. She removes her hand from her neck and a red mark is on her neck. Looks red, he tells her. Sophie stands and walks to the mirror by the corner and sees the red mark on her neck. It felt like someone strangling me, she says, sounding scared. Eric walks up to her. I'm sorry, he says. It wasn't you, she says, and walks to the door and opens it. I see you later, she says, and steps out. You okay? He asks. Sophie walks to her car and says, I'm good, just see you later. Eric lays on his bed. He clicks the lamp by his bed off. It's dark. He closes his eyes. He hears a girl's voice speak softly, but he can't clearly understand it. He is creeped out. He listens and hears a girl speak softly again. He clicks the lamp back on. The second the light comes back on, he sees Kayla standing on front of the bed. Eric tears up. Kayla disappears. No, come back, he yells out. Eric gets up and runs into the dark hallway outside his bedroom. The door slams shut behind him. He jumps up startled. He hears her voice again. He follows the voice into the dark kitchen. He stands in the center of the kitchen. Her voice is heard clearly this time. I'm going to kill her, her voice says. Eric runs out of his house and into his car. He starts his car. He looks in front of him and sees Kayla standing on front of the car. He honks the car and she disappears again. A little while later, Eric's car arrives at Sophie's house. He exits out of the car and goes up to the front door and knocks very loud. He notices the door is not locked and opens it. He steps into the dark house. He notices the kitchen light is on and slowly moves into the kitchen. He sees Sophie dead on the floor. He cries out.
D2Dis is the best YouTuber in the world.